Hi, my name is Dilip Ramachandran. I'm the CEO of a company called NIBI, which is a product development firm based in the United States and Sri Lanka. I'm also the author of the book Gangsta Vision. And I wrote the book Gangsta Vision because I felt this, and I feel there are product managers out there who feel stuck in their career and they're not sure how to diagnose it and how to kind of find a path for their product management career. And I've been building these frameworks over the past decade, and I've been writing about it, and I thought I would kind of repackage them in the form of a book, and that's what the book's about. And I've been doing this read-aloud series, and today I'll be doing one, and this will be chapter 13. So I think it's a great way for people to consume the book. Beyond reading something, they can watch a video as they're kind of walking around. So here we go. So this is chapter 13 called True Ownership, one of my favorite chapters. A little bit longer than some of the ones we've done before. So hang in there, it'll be fun for you. True ownership. Throughout this book, we have explored the tools and skills to break the cycle and shift your mindset from a mercenary to a missionary. This is a really important shift that the book's really focused on. The natural culmination from practicing your leadership superpowers is exhibiting true ownership. True ownership is the idea that you fully welcome accountability for your product, your company, and your people. It is necessary foundation to achieve the gangster vision we will uncover in the last part of this book. For innovators out there building the modern financial technology products of tomorrow, they require several pieces of banking infrastructure. The list includes but is not limited to card issuing, identity verification, bill payments, stock or crypto trading, domestic money movement, international remittance, and so on. Think of these puzzle pieces that innovators need neatly bundled into a single offering, right? As a result, there's never been more demand for developer facing API platforms that create this foundation of banking infrastructure. When I founded NIMI, my goal was to provide my clients with product management and payments advisory to help them build world class developer platforms. I help these clients with defining their product roadmap and strategy, and if they need it, offer staff augmentation with top talent from Sri Lanka to execute on that strategy. One of my clients was a fintech unicorn in the brokerage space called Rocketstock. Rocketstock had grown very fast, providing the banking infrastructure for neobanks and investment management platforms to give power to the end users to maximize their investment portfolios and have real time visibility in terms of performance. This growth was organic, and they catered specifically to mostly large enterprise clients. They brought me in to come up with a distribution strategy with small and medium technology players who expected a self service developer platform that could give Rocketstock growth through scale. In one of my first meetings with the working group, I was happy to see all the stakeholders were very happy with my research, the teachings, and recommendations. We met over the next few weeks and kept talking about these ideas, but we struggled to transition to execution. You see, this is a very common thing, right? You have a lot of ideas, a lot of strategy. You hire consultants, they come in, and I want to execute. I want to move first, and so this was something I took very personally with this particular customer engagement. You see, this working group was assembled from team leaders from different functions responsible for their piece of the puzzle. There wasn't a single owner at Rocketstock responsible for the product overall. And it was me, but I was an external party. I wasn't, you know, a leader in the company, leading the product team or whatnot like that. I certainly could have done it, but as an external consultant, that couldn't be my role, as I would eventually need to pass the baton to a product leader at Rocketstock. When I met with the CEO, I mentioned to him this was what I perceived as a biggest risk. Together, we worked to identify a potential candidate to lead the product for Rocketstock. Her name was Anjali. Anjali was a very strong technical leader. She had been at the company since its inception and was a subject matter expert. She could rattle off the business logic that drove the API and in the next moment talk about the compliance implications for a small fintech to acquire a broker dealer license. In order for this strategy to be successful, I had to instill true ownership in Anjali. I had to find a way to ensure the ideas the CEO and I had put together as part of the roadmap strategy were really Anjali's ideas. In other words, I had to perform inception on Anjali, and she would pass it forward onto her peers, team members, and the broader Rocketstock organization to bring these concepts to reality. I provided Anjali with the same exercise I had revealed in chapter 5, the product roadmap operating plan. My instructions for Anjali were to try her best to populate this template and identify ways to compare and contrast the projects the team could deliver on to achieve distribution of the developer platform. I acknowledged this wasn't a perfect science. She did not have to calculate the exact revenue value or cost savings of each prioritized project to the cents, but I recommended that she use it as a framework for decision making and a discussion. Anjali completed the exercise and realized this level of discussion and critical thinking was needed broadly in the organization. She expanded the scope to all the products the company was working on, not just the developer experience roadmap. In a complete obsession with delivering a large volume of features, she completely lost sight of the bigger picture. She understood her role was to drive the entire organization, not just the product team. She had to start to exhibit true ownership. While it is incredibly important to state internally and externally what you want and are aspiring to, there's nothing that beats truly being. And this is really critical. You want to run the organization like it's your own. You want to run it like you're paying the payroll, right? It's a shift. This is the shift from mercenary to missionary. You make different decisions. You think about products differently. Going back to the reading here, that is to be a great senior product leader. Convince yourself that whatever part of the product or function that you own, you are the true CEO of it. The path to true ownership starts with these three beliefs. You have to believe your decisions will determine the outcomes of the business you're responsible for. You have to believe that you are paying the wages of your team members out of your own pocket. You will have to believe the users of your product will suffer if you do not fulfill the vision you set for the team. They're really important as you are listening to this. Think through those 3 points and see, am I doing that? And if you're not, why am I not doing it? And work that way. When you think this way, your worldview changes. And Anjali understood how a prioritization advantage was too narrow. The final piece of this mindset shift is so counterintuitive. There's no better way for me to explain it than sharing the story from Santosh, somebody I interviewed for this book and has appeared previously in this book. Here's Santosh's quote. I look at my career and go, good God, I cannot move up. What's going on? I knew I was talented. I knew I was over delivering, and my reviews were amazing. And even then, I was passed for leadership positions. And those who got it, in my opinion, were probably not qualified. At first, I was complaining about my management and getting frustrated. Through the help of my coaches and mentors, I realized this was futile. So I changed my mindset. I started operating like an entrepreneur, in brackets, intrapreneur, within the company. My new mindset and outlook on the company also shifted because all that mattered to me was how to approach and solve problems. It was the same exact me and same exact team, but I repackaged us as something entirely new. The year before, I was begging my team to allow me to attend conferences. Now, not only did I start to speak at conferences, but they started signing me up for more conferences that I could handle. This is when Santosh and I talked about it, it was such an interesting story, and his energy and enthusiasm, it channeled it, and I used it to change the language of the book because it's such an important point to get that true ownership. And I hope I'm getting it across in this video here today, which a book cannot, right? I hope the video can do that for you. When Santosh changed his worldview, he made different decisions, and the people around him noticed. They felt a change in his presence and they wanted a piece of it. By acting like a true and authentic owner, Santosh was, as David Noor stated, a curve bender for everyone on his team. David Noor's quote also previously in the book. It'll be in another reading. I'll make sure I capture that next time. I'll work on that. We will explore how leaders can spot and uplift others into senior leadership again in the last section of this book. Let's go back to a story we started back in chapter 10. This story was about Ahmed Siddiqui, author of Anatomy of the Swipe, the de facto Bible for anyone getting into payments. Ahmed had left Marquetta to pursue a role at Payments Company Branch, which is building payment innovations for working Americans. Ahmed experienced some similar challenges to finding his true ownership as he collaborated with his CEO. And here's Ahmed's quote. I think working for a CEO who's product minded has challenges. Any product minded CEO really wants to be the CPO. So while the CPO is the one driving the strategy, they still have the shadow of the CEO over them. At Branch, I do the work to figure out what we need to do, and I get everyone on the executive team on board, including making sure the CEO is aligned and approves our path forward. For me, this can feel frustrating, because I don't get the credit for doing the work. During my conversation with Ahmed, I consoled him and his frustration with this advice. Enabling your leadership to believe your idea is theirs actually means you were very successful as a product leader. That's the job. To this day, Ahmed is actively using this framework. He believes a great product leader is a master of doing inception on their leadership, their peers, and their team members. A well communicated product strategy should feel natural to all team members involved, so much so that it should feel like it was their idea to begin with. I know this for sure as a CEO of NIMI. At NIMI, within the management team, I've created an environment where every member has a voice. If an executive member brings up a new investment or a change in strategy and it isn't intuitively the right thing to do, we discuss it with no judgment. We give these conversations the forum and time they deserve. With the power of the written word, we're able to critically discuss and think about how we can address the macro issues affecting the business. When we solve these problems as a CEO, I don't expect to be given or ever take credit. As I transitioned from senior product leader to a CEO, I saw in many ways it was the same. It explains why so many refer to the product management as the CEO of the product. As a CEO, I find and satisfy customers, focus on revenue and brand, and bring on board strategic hires. For me, repeating the mission or company strategy again and again isn't tiring or boring. It's an opportunity to have this forum where you can bring ideas to a group willing to listen. This is the brilliance of the job of senior leadership. Each communication is an opportunity for you to perform inception on your team, so infect them with true ownership. Senior leadership does not work without teams. It is fundamentally a team sport. As a topmost member of your function, you don't need credit. You have to share the credit and you have to give the credit. The fact you made it here is a reward you have received for all the years of effort you have invested. The job is no longer about getting into the weeds, staying up late writing requirements, designing API specs, and solving every single open Jira ticket. Your job is different now. It's interesting that I say this now. I didn't know about this when I was writing the book, but um, Shreyas Doshi, X-Stripe, his LNO framework, right? It's keen onto this, like leverage. How do you get leverage? It's not staying up late writing the API spec. It's leveraging the API spec and communicating to the people you need to work with so they understand and it's useful. Right? It is about the environment, creating an environment fostering innovation. It is being an arbiter of decision making with the context of the outcomes you help set with the executive team. In a crude way, the job is like asking, how do I, in the shortest number of slides, tell the most compelling story so I can build credibility with the executive team? The most successful senior leaders are mountain guides. They enjoy the thrill of guiding others every single time. While their vision is to get everyone to the peak, they're more focused on making sure everyone progresses toward it together on the path that works for the group. With their superpowers, they effectively spot danger and point it out in a productive way, clearly and verbally, describing the situation with flashlight in hand. The best mountain guides optimize the enjoyment, health, and safety of the group beyond their own ego or personal needs. And that's what is expected of those wishing to move into senior leadership. Don't be a mercenary product manager. Capitalize on information advantages to become a missionary product manager and embrace true ownership. Thanks for listening. Here's the image of that mountain guide that I want you to aspire to be. Here's a book again, Gangsta Vision, Recipes to Break into Product Management Leadership, written by me. There you go. Thank you. Thank you for your time. See ya.